Kit numbers. These are things that surprisingly hold a lot of power and weight despite not affecting the match in any way. Some numbers have a special meaning or aura to them, some numbers have no reason behind them whatsoever, and some numbers help identify players in video games when their last name is not common enough to have been recorded by the commentators. No, it's fine. I liked being called number 5 when I played NCAA football.
Number 5 fields it at the 30.
Trent Alexander-Arnold is leaving for Real Madrid. In his iconic 66, will be leaving a mark at Liverpool, but the question that I have isn't how he'll change the Madrid squad, but what number he'll wear for his new club, because La Liga actually has rules that state that first team members must wear a number between 1 and 25, meaning Trent will have to forego his special number for something else, and the fact that everyone is talking about it shows why kit numbers are so important. Hello. I'm trying to get an editor because I want to make more videos, but I'm spending too much time doing other things like watching the Algerian League. Look, it's a tight race for the title, okay? Can you blame me? Send some samples or inquiries to this email right here. Please have some experience as well. And of course, it's going to be paid. I'm not a degen. Now, even though they don't have any effect on a match's outcome, kit numbers are one of the few ways that a player can express individuality and become identifiable, since players obviously have to wear matching uniforms and can't make any distinct modifications to them. Ronaldo, for example, has worn 3 different numbers throughout his club career, starting with 28 at Sporting Lisbon, number 7 at Manchester United, and finally number 9 at Real Madrid. However, that last one was only for a season because when he got there, Raul was already wearing the number 7. Despite wearing a few different numbers, his most iconic is obviously the number 7, and it's been associated with him for so long that his nickname is literally CR7. I mean, he's been able to build brands off of it and has worked with other companies to help push the CR7 nickname. Now, even though he's worked tirelessly to make the number 7 iconic, he actually has to thank 2 people for even letting him wear it in the first place. The first is Sir Alex Ferguson, who convinced Ronaldo to wear the number 7 when he transferred there, even though the players who wore number 7 for United in the past were considered legends, including David Beckham, who had literally just gone to Real Madrid the same summer that Ronaldo came in. But the second person he should be thanking is Herbert Chapman, the person who came up with the idea of giving players numbers to begin with, and the system itself for how players should be numbered. Now, every sport that I've seen has some type of system when it comes to numbers. In professional American football, for example, each position has a range of numbers that they can typically choose from. For example, offensive linemen are usually between 50 and 79, running backs are usually between 20 and 39, and quarterbacks usually between 1 and 19. There's actually a league-wide rule for uniform numbers that was made back in 1973. Now, notice that I said the word usually when I was talking about those positions, because in college American football, and before that rule was introduced in the United States, there would be some real weirdos using numbers that do not go to that certain position. For example, Doug Flutie, a quarterback, wore number 22 in college, and anytime that I saw his highlights, I assumed he was a running back because I genuinely cannot remember any other time that a quarterback wore anything else between 1 and 19. Now, football actually has a similar numbering system in the sense that there is a reason why some players in positions wear certain numbers. This all started back in 1929 when Arsenal manager Herbert Chapman decided that his players should wear numbers so they could better understand where each person was on the pitch. Now, the most popular formation used at the time was a bit different compared to now, as clubs usually ran a 2-3-5, something that I wish would be brought back, but unfortunately everyone today is a coward. Yeah, you heard me, Pep. Oh, look at me, I can build fluid attacking plays and popularize a completely random position. Yeah, alright, you nerd. Now, Chapman would assign numbers in ascending order, starting with the keeper, and go from right to left up the pitch. This meant that the keeper was number 1, the 2 defenders 2 and 3, midfielders 4, 5, and 6, and the front 5 were 7 through 11. As formations naturally evolved, the players on the pitch and their numbers associated with it would evolve as well. The 2-3-5 formation would change to a WM formation, something that's actually common for modern teams to move into while they have possession, pioneered once again by Arsenal manager Herbert Chapman, which tells me that Arsenal is the thing for modern football. You're welcome. The central defensive midfielder, number 5, would drop into defense while the other two midfielders, 6 and 4, squeezed a little closer. At the same time, numbers 8 and 10 would drop a little deeper to play directly in front of the attackers. Finally, as players started to have more freedom with which numbers they chose to wear, formations would evolve once again and switch to the 4-4-2. In the defense, numbers 2 and 3 would be pushed out wide to become fullbacks, and the number 4 would drop into the center back role to complete the back 4. Number 8 would drop a little deeper into the midfield to play alongside number 6, and the wingers, 7 and 11, would also drop back and become outside midfielders. While formations continued to evolve, despite Sean Dyche thinking otherwise, squad numbers would be somewhat solidified by their position at this point. This is why when a club needs a striker, people will say that they need a proper number 9, or when they need a holding or defensive midfielder, they need a number 6. This lingo is still used today, and a lot of players try to keep that numbers by position tradition alive. However, it is a lot more open today, and a lot of players are taking advantage. We mentioned before that Ronaldo always tried to keep his number 7 after leaving Manchester United because of his branding. Mesut Ozil is a similar player who tried to keep the same number because of his branding, which is MO10. Other players are more inclined to use their favorite number, or as a backup plan, choose a 2-digit number that adds up to their favorite number, like Balotelli choosing 45 because the number he wanted, number 9, was taken at the time that he arrived. 4 plus 5 equals 9. You follow me? God, I love math. However, there are players who, even though they don't have a favorite number to choose, they will actively avoid some other numbers. Manchester United's number 7, for example, has a long history of storied players like Ronaldo, Cantona, David Beckham, and even though he wore other numbers, George Best. But since Ronaldo's departure, the number 7 has been a bit cursed. Michael Owen was a shadow of his former self. Antonio Valencia saw his form change for the better after switching to number 25 after a year of wearing number 7. Di Maria didn't perform well. I forgot that Depay even played for the club. Alexis Sanchez was part of the worst swap deal in Premier League history. Cavani couldn't live up to his own personal high standards. Ronaldo came back but did above average, which is certainly below his actual average. And now there's Mason Mount, who's only played, I think, about 17 minutes because he's been hurt for like 92 years. Now, following in a club legend's footsteps is always going to be difficult, whether that's number 14 for Arsenal or number 22 for Birmingham City. But it's even harder when an entire numbers history at a club is either worn by flops or superstars. Seriously, I completely forgot Depay played for United. Like, was this a fever dream or something? But one of the coolest things about kit numbers, besides those iconic high range numbers like Ronaldinho's 80 at Milan, is the progression that you see with a player, from youth academy to squad player to starter to superstar. What's different about football compared to other sports, at least in the United States, is that a lower number is thought to be more important, which makes sense because the first team was always given numbers 1 through 11 as we discussed earlier. That means the youth team players, at least those who were good enough to make an appearance or two during a season, would be given very high numbers, often in the 50s or even higher. But if they were good enough to solidify a spot in the first team the next season, their number would often get lowered to signify their importance. Saka, for example, made his debut for Arsenal wearing number 87. The next season, it got changed to 77, and he would go on to make 38 first-team appearances for the club in all competitions. It was clear that he had the talent to be a first-team player for Arsenal, which at the time wasn't actually too hard, but still give him credit. And he was rewarded with the number 7 shirt the next season, a number that was worn by great players at Arsenal like Robert Pires, Thomas Rosicky, and David Rocastle. Depending on how quickly a player moves up the ranks at a club, you can use those kit numbers like a signpost in a player's career. And you can do the same thing for any player's kit number history, like Zlatan's, for example. Knowing where he was and how well he played just based on a single number. All in all, I love the expression of kit numbers, and anything weird that players are able to do should be celebrated. Choose a number because it's your favorite. Choose a number because it was given to you when you made an appearance while still in the youth academy. Choose the number 69 because you're a child. I'm in favor of all of it. Except for this. Do not do this, please. Putting a 0 in front of a number is god-awful. Anyone who does this, 10th circle of hell, okay? Literally Macwell is better than you. Please do better.